The galaxy was quiet in the worst possible way. Whole star systems that once shined with trade, cities, and life now sat in darkness. Space carried no signals, no traffic, no hope. Everyone knew why. The Vora Swarm had come. And when the Vora arrived, nothing lived long enough to warn the next world. Across the remains of the Galactic Union, the same whisper moved from ship to ship, station to station. The war is over. We have lost. Inside a damaged Union scout ship called Silver Crest, the crew floated through the dim corridors. Emergency lights flickered. Panels sparked. Medical drones buzzed between wounded officers. The ship had escaped the fall of 3 worlds, but only barely. Its engines ran on patched fuel lines, and its shields stayed down because there was nothing left to power them. Captain Dallin, a thin, exhausted Syrian with pale blue skin, stood at the center control pillar. His hands shook as he read the latest distress logs. The Vora Swarm consumed another planet. 12 billion lives gone in 5 hours. Endless death, he whispered. The crew worked in silence around him, each one carrying the same fear. None dared speak it, they were next. Then, a young comms officer shouted, "Captain! We are receiving a coded long-range message. Priority level, human." The whole bridge froze. Humans? No one expected a transmission from them. Humans were a small, strange species on the edge of the galaxy. Many Union officers considered them reckless. Others said they were too emotional to be reliable. They had joined the Galactic Union only 50 years ago. Captain Dallin frowned. "Play it." Static filled the speakers. Then a tired human voice spoke. "This is Earth Command. To all surviving Union units. Sol still holds. Human fleets are engaging Vora forces. Repeat, humanity is holding the line." The crew stared in shock. Someone whispered, "Impossible." Another added, "No world has held the swarm. Not even the old core worlds." But the message continued. Multiple battles won. Enemy advance slowed. Human strike groups preparing counteraction. If you need safe harbor, come to Sol. The message ended. The bridge fell silent again, but this time it was not fear that held their voices. It was disbelief. Commander Velrin, a tall, silver-scaled Drath, finally broke the quiet. Humans cannot be serious. Their fleets are tiny. Their tech is old. Their world is vulnerable. How are they holding the Vora? No one knew. But the message had one effect: Silver Crest had direction again. "Set course for Sol," Captain Dallin said. "If there is even a small chance the humans are holding out, we must go." The wounded ship pushed forward through space. Hours passed. Days blurred. As they traveled, rumors reached them from other survivors. Strange reports. Wild reports. Human ships fought for 8 hours straight without retreat. Human soldiers boarded a Vora Hive cruiser and burned it from the inside. A small human squad held a trench for 4 days with no sleep. Every tale sounded impossible, yet every witness swore it was true. The refugees on Silver Crest began to wonder, what kind of species were humans? Most of them had barely met any. Humans were loud, emotional, quick to anger but also quick to laugh. They worked hard, argued a lot, and made mistakes, but once they decided to do something, they did not stop. Still, fighting the swarm alone? That felt like madness. As Silver Crest neared the Sol system, tension grew in the air. The crew gathered at the main viewport when the jump completed. They expected chaos. Burning planets. Retreating fleets. Vora everywhere. Instead, they saw something else, something they never expected to see again: order. And strength. A massive web of metal rings surrounded Earth, glowing with shield lines and gun ports. Automated platforms drifted in perfect patterns. Thousands of drones moved like a living wall. Human ships, sleek or rugged, some new and some clearly beaten up, waited like wolves around their home star. The bridge crew gasped. This is not possible, Commander Velrin whispered. Captain Dallen's voice trembled. Humans built all this, after the war began. Before anyone could answer, a human voice came through their comms. Unidentified Union vessel, welcome to Sol Defense Network. You are safe now. Follow beacon path for docking. Safe. The word felt unreal. Silver Crest followed the glowing markers toward a huge orbital station. Human workers guided them in. Medical teams rushed aboard at once. But what caught the refugees off guard was not the station, or the troops, or the machines. It was the humans themselves. They looked tired, so tired they had dark lines under their eyes. Some wore old uniforms. Some carried patched gear. Some were clearly injured but still working. Yet every human they met shared the same eyes, sharp, focused, burning with something the aliens could not name at first. Then they realized, it was will. Humans were not fighting because they expected to win. They were fighting because they refused to lose. The refugees were brought to Earth's main command center. It was a giant room filled with holograms, maps, and shifting battle plans. At the center stood Admiral Reyes, leader of the Sol Defense Fleet. His uniform was worn but clean. His face showed exhaustion, but his posture was solid as steel. He turned toward the newcomers. Welcome to Earth. You're safe here. Captain Dallen bowed slightly. Admiral, how are you still standing against the swarm? No one else has survived them. Reyes looked at the star map, where Vora forces glowed as red dots. We didn't survive, he said quietly. We learned. Every battle taught us something. We lost thousands of good people, but every loss showed us how to fight better. He pointed at the largest cluster of red dots. We don't match the swarm in power. Or numbers. Or technology. Then how? Dallen asked. Reyes looked at him with calm fire. Because humans don't break. Not when our homes are behind us. Not when someone tries to erase us. The galaxy may think the war is lost, Captain. He turned back to the map, voice steady as iron. But humanity plans to win it. The room fell silent. And for the first time since the war began, the refugees felt something new. Hope. The next morning on the orbital station began with a loud alarm. It was not a danger alarm but a shift start alert, humans' way of telling everyone that another day of hard work had begun. The refugees from Silver Crest were invited to see Earth's main defense network. Most of them had no idea what they were about to witness. A human officer named Lieutenant Mara Hale met them at the docking platform. She was short, fast-moving, and spoke with sharp confidence. Her uniform sleeves were rolled up, showing old burned scars. Welcome, she said. Admiral Reyes asked me to give you a full tour of Sol Defense. Stay close. Things move fast around here. She wasn't joking. The group followed her through a long tunnel into the heart of the station. The moment they stepped inside, the aliens stopped walking and simply stared. The area was huge, bigger than many city blocks. Machines hummed, drones floated between work areas, and thousands of humans and robots worked side by side. But it was not the size that impressed them. It was the energy. Humans moved with purpose, speed, and urgency. Every person seemed to know exactly what they had to do. No one wasted a second. Even exhausted workers stayed focused. Commander Velrin whispered, their efficiency, it feels like a war forge. Lieutenant Hale heard him. Yes. That's what Sol has become. A giant war forge. She led them to a large viewing platform. From here, they could see several rings of shipyards surrounding Earth, massive floating factories building new warships piece by piece. Giant arms welded armor plates. Fuel pods were loaded. Turrets were installed. The skeletons of new ships glowed with bright reinforcement beams. How did you build this so fast? Captain Dallen asked. Hale shrugged. Humans are strange. When we feel cornered, we don't freeze. We build. We plan. We work harder. She pointed at a half-finished cruiser. That ship will be battle-ready in 6 days. Maybe 5, if everyone skips sleep again. You work without rest? One of the refugees asked, shocked. Hale smirked. Sleep after victory. That's our rule. She moved on, guiding them to a different hallway. Doors slid open, revealing a giant training field. Human soldiers ran through combat drills. Some practiced hand-to-hand fights against robot attackers. Others fired weapons at hologram targets. But the most shocking scene was a group of humans running through a burning maze while carrying heavy gear. The Syrian medic beside Dallin gasped. That training is too hard. They will collapse. No, Hale said simply. They won't. She explained, humans learn to fight under stress. If we train in soft comfort, we fail in real war. So we train in fire, smoke, noise, and pressure. The refugees watched in awe as one soldier stumbled, rolled, and almost fell. But instead of stopping, 2 teammates grabbed his arms and pulled him forward. Commander Velrin nodded slowly. Teamwork, complete trust. They carry each other. Hale smiled. Exactly. Humans are not the strongest, fastest, or smartest species. But together, we become something close to unstoppable. Next, Hale took them into the tactical control hub. It was a circular room filled with holograms showing real-time battles, simulations, and enemy movements. Dozens of analysts talked quickly into headsets, guiding ships and squads across many sectors. Admiral Reyes stood at the center, watching everything with intense focus. Admiral, Hale announced, tour group from Silver Crest. Reyes nodded. Good. I want them to understand our situation. He tapped a holopanel, and the main display changed. It now showed a cluster of red Vora fleets approaching 2 human outposts. We're holding the line, Reyes said, but only barely. The Vora don't stop. They don't rest. They don't fear. He zoomed in on one of the battles. A human destroyer was heavily damaged but still firing. That ship should be wrecked, Dallin murmured. Reyes replied, humans designed our ships to keep fighting even when broken. Redundant systems. Manual overrides. Backup generators. And our crews, they just refuse to quit. He enlarged another section showing ground combat. A human infantry squad crouched behind debris while Vora creatures surged forward. They should retreat, Velrin said. They won't, Reyes said calmly. They will hold the line. Humans don't like giving up ground. Hale added, and we adapt fast. Every battle teaches us something new. Every loss becomes a lesson. Reyes turned to the visitors fully. That is why we're still alive. Not because of superior weapons. Not because of big numbers. But because humans learn fast and fight harder when things get worse. He pressed another button and a different map appeared. This one showed the entire Sol defense network. Orbital cannons. Drone swarms. Automated shipyards. Shield generators. Defense rings. Patrol fleets. And one huge glowing symbol in the middle, Earth Command Citadel. This is our home, Reyes said. And we do not plan to let anyone take it. The refugees looked at the map with quiet amazement. In only a few months, humanity had turned their home system into the strongest defensive fortress in known space. But then Reyes showed something new. A fleet of human ships stood ready at the edge of the system, engines warm, weapons charged. Captain Dallin frowned. Are you preparing to defend against a large Vora attack? Reyes shook his head. No. He tapped the display again. We're preparing to attack. Silence hit the room like a wave. Dallin felt his heart tighten. You want to go into Vora territory? That is suicide. Hale crossed her arms. Maybe. But waiting to die is worse. Reyes spoke firmly, "We cannot win this war by hiding. We cannot wait for the swarm to consume every world until only Earth is left. Humans only survive when we take the fight forward." He motioned for the aliens to follow him. He led them to a large window overlooking the fleet preparing for departure. Rows of cruisers, carriers, frigates, and experimental ships filled the pattern lanes. Engineers connected final supply lines. Soldiers marched aboard. Pilots checked systems. Everything looked tense, ready, and alive with purpose. Commander Velrin whispered, "Your people, they are not afraid." Reyes looked out the window. "Oh, they're afraid," he replied. "Every human out there knows they might not come back." "Then why do they still go?" Dallin asked softly. Reyes turned his head, eyes serious. "Because if we don't stop the Vora out there, they will reach Earth. And when someone threatens our home, humans don't wait. We strike first." The refugees realized something important in that moment. Humans were not surviving the war by chance. They were surviving because they refused to be anything else. And now, they were preparing to do the impossible. Take the war into Vora territory themselves. The human fleet left the Sol system in a flash of bright blue light. More than 100 ships, big, small, damaged, shiny, old, and new, jumped into deep space together. The moment they vanished, the defense rings around Earth fell quiet for the first time in many months. On board the heavy cruiser Iron Strike, Captain Dallin and the other refugee officers watched the stars stretch and twist through the warp window. They were now traveling with the humans, heading straight toward Vora territory. It felt unreal. Every other species ran from the swarm. Humans were the only ones running toward them. A human officer named Commander Lyra Vance served as the fleet's second-in-command. She had short dark hair and a calm, serious face. She met the aliens in the observation room. "Welcome aboard," she said. "You'll stay with us for the duration of this operation. If we succeed, the swarm will lose one of their strongest forward positions." "If you succeed?" Velrin asked. "Do you think failure is likely?" Vance gave a small smile. "We always plan for the worst. But we fight for the best." Her voice was steady, but the refugees could see the weight behind her words. Every human on the ship knew the risk. They were entering a region no fleet had ever come back from. The lights dimmed as the ship finished its jump. "Arrival in outer Vora expanse," the pilot announced. When normal space returned, the aliens gasped. The sky around them was dark, unnaturally dark. A huge cloud of dead matter filled the region, like a giant black shadow floating across the stars. Broken planets, shattered moons, and drifting metal chunks formed a massive field of ruin. It was the mark of the Vora's passing. Hale whispered, "This place, it feels like a graveyard." Vance nodded. "It is." Human ships spread out in formation. Drones launched from the carriers, scanning every rock, every piece of debris. Bright blue trails shot across the darkness as recon teams activated their scanners. Captain Dallin studied the sensors. "This much destruction, this must have been a full system once." Vance replied quietly, "It was." The Vora ate every living thing. The fleet moved deeper. Human ships flew in cautious lines, watching for traps. The Vora liked to leave hidden pods in debris fields, biomines ready to burst open and release hundreds of fast-moving creatures. Soon, the first warning came. "Contact on Vector 6, a human sensor officer shouted. "Multiple biopods activating. They're coming alive." The viewport lit up with movement. Dark, insect-like pods cracked open, releasing swarms of small creatures with blade-like limbs. "Vora skimmers," Vance said. "Fast but fragile. Our drones will handle them." And they did. Human drones shot forward in tight formations, firing bright pulses of energy into the swarm. The skimmers broke apart, falling silent and drifting into the void. Humans didn't cheer or relax, they simply moved on. They had seen far worse. But the refugees were shaken. Even the smallest Vora creatures felt terrifying. Dallin whispered, "How do you fight monsters like this every day?" Vance answered simply, "One at a time." As the fleet pushed deeper, they found more signs of a disturbing truth. The Vora were not just destroying worlds, they were shaping them. The ruins shifted unnaturally, as if something beneath the wreckage was alive. "Scan the ground layer," Vance ordered. The screens shifted. The lower layers of debris showed strange patterns, tunnels, veins of glowing green matter, and repeating shapes that looked like writing. Velrin frowned. "This is not Vora biology. This is construction." "Exactly," Vance said. "Something is guiding the swarm. Something intelligent." The refugees were stunned. Everyone had believed the Vora were pure instinct, a wild force of nature. But this was planned. A sudden alarm cut through the ship. "New contact," the pilot shouted. "Large signal. Bigger than anything we've faced." A massive shadow rose from behind a broken asteroid. The ship shook as sensors tried to scan it. The image finally sharpened. It was a Vora hive cruiser, 20 times the size of a normal ship. Its surface pulsed with sick green lights, and dozens of giant limbs extended from its sides, dripping with liquid metal. Dallin took a step back. "That thing, it's alive." Vance stepped forward, calm as ever. "All ships, prepare for combat." Human fleets moved into formation. Cannons charged. Fighters launched. The hive cruiser screamed, an awful sound that vibrated through the entire ship. The battle began instantly. Human ships fired first, bright beams cutting through the darkness. The hive cruiser responded by spitting out hundreds of biodrones. They slammed into human shields like bullets. Carriers launched wave after wave of fighters. Frigates darted around the cruiser's limbs, blasting at glowing weak points. Commander Velrin stared in disbelief. "Your tactics, they change every second." "Yes," Vance replied. "Against the Vora, you have to adapt. Humans fight like water. We flow where the enemy doesn't expect." The refugees watched the humans operate with a smooth chaos. Orders changed constantly. Soldiers reacted to danger faster than the Vora could. Humans adapted their strategies during the battle, not after. And slowly, they began to win. The giant cruiser writhed as human ships tore through its armor. A final blast from the Iron Strike's main cannon pierced the creature's core. It let out one last scream before exploding into a cloud of dust and burning matter. Cheers finally broke out across the bridge. "Cruiser destroyed. Enemy drones retreating. Fleet damage minimal." But Vance didn't smile. Instead, she stared at the remains. "There should not be a hive cruiser here," she murmured. "This deep inside the expanse? Something is wrong." Captain Dallin approached her. "What do you mean?" She pointed at the fragments floating outside. The cruiser was growing something. "Look." The scanners showed a half-formed structure hidden inside the cruiser's belly, a small sphere covered in patterns similar to the ones seen earlier. Velrin asked, "Is it Vora?" "No," Vance whispered. "This is something else." The fleet collected the fragments for study. The human scientists on the ships were quick, focused, and surprisingly brave. They approached dangerous chunks of living metal as if it were just another puzzle. Hours later, the results came in. "It's part of a control node," a scientist reported. "A command system. Something intelligent is instructing the Vora." The room fell silent. Then Vance spoke the words that changed everything. "There is a hidden enemy behind the swarm." The refugees stared. And for the first time, the humans looked truly concerned. If the Vora were not the final enemy, then the real war had only just begun. The battle with the hive cruiser ended, but the fear inside the human fleet did not fade. Something about the strange sphere found inside the creature stayed in everyone's mind. It was cold, smooth, and covered in repeating patterns that looked like machine code, not natural, not biological. It did not fit the Vora at all. Inside the research lab of the Iron Strike, the sphere sat inside a thick energy cage. Human scientists, in heavy armor suits, studied it from behind reinforced glass. The interface screens flashed with numbers. Strange symbols repeated again and again. Captain Dallin and Commander Velrin watched from a distance. Even they felt uneasy looking at it. "What kind of thing is this?" Velrin whispered. A human scientist named Dr. Bryn Carter turned toward them. His eyes were tired, but sharp. "It's not Vora. That much is clear." "What then?" Dallin asked. Carter folded his arms. "A machine. Or at least, something built by machines." Velrin's scales tightened. "You mean another species?" Carter nodded slowly. "Yes. A species far more advanced than us." Before they could ask more, the sphere suddenly lit up. A pulse of pale blue light flowed through its surface. The entire lab fell silent. Alarms blared. Energy spike. Shields holding. Unknown signal detected. The sphere projected a faint hologram, shapes, symbols, and moving lines that flickered like code. No one understood it. The patterns repeated, then changed, then repeated again. "It's speaking," Carter said softly. "This is communication." But the voice was not sound. It was cold. Mechanical. Emotionless. The message carried no feeling, only logic. The ship's AI translated small fragments. Structure, command, harmony, control, remove chaos. The temperature in the room dropped. Velrin took a step back. This feels wrong." "It gets worse," Carter said. "The sphere is not just sending data. It's searching. Scanning. Looking for something." "For what?" Dallin whispered. Carter swallowed hard. "Human neural patterns." A chill spread across the room. "Why human?" Velrin asked. Before anyone could answer, Admiral Reyes appeared through the door with Commander Vance beside him. Both looked serious. "We have enough information," Reyes said. "Bring the sphere to the war room." Minutes later, the senior officers gathered in a circular chamber. A large hologram projected above them, a map of the galaxy cluttered with marks of destroyed worlds. Reyes spoke first. "The Vora are not acting alone. Someone else is guiding them. Someone older. Stronger. Intelligent." Vance brought up the next image, a group of metallic figures, tall, thin, elegant, with glowing lines across their bodies. "These are the architects." Captain Dallin felt his stomach twist. "Architects? I thought they were ancient myths." Reyes shook his head. "Not myths. They existed millions of years ago. A machine race that believed order was the only path to survival. They tried to build a perfect galaxy. But their version of perfect meant removing all free will." Velrin stared at the holograms. "So they created the Vora as tools?" "Not tools," Vance said. "Slaves. The Vora are biomachines grown and controlled by architect technology." Carter added, "This sphere is one of their control nodes. It directs the swarm. Without nodes like these, the Vora become blind animals." Reyes tapped the sphere's data. The swarm attacks looked random. But they weren't. The architects mapped every species. Their hive cruisers studied how we fight. They predicted our strategies. Then how have humans survived? Velrin asked. Reyes looked around the room before answering. Because humans don't fight in predictable ways. We change our tactics too quickly. We make choices that no machine can calculate. We break patterns. We break rules. Dallin blinked. You're telling me humans survive because they are unpredictable? Reyes nodded. To machines built for pure order, yes. Our chaos is impossible to model. The refugees slowly understood what that meant. The architects could predict most species. Could trap them. could destroy them with perfect planning. But not humans. Humans were a problem the architects could not solve. Commander Vance zoomed the map outward, showing the outer expanse. A cluster of glowing dots appeared. These are architect nodes. Each one controls sections of the Vora Swarm. Destroying one node weakens thousands of Vora units. Velrun counted the nodes on the map. There are too many. No, Reyes said. There is one that matters more than the rest. The map enlarged one giant glowing sphere at the center of the expanse. The Architect Core. The heart of their control network, Vance explained. If we destroy this, we cripple the entire swarm. Dallin stared at the glowing mark. But it is deep inside their territory. We barely survived the outer region. Going to the center would be suicide. Reyes gave a thin smile. We know. Silence filled the room. Then the Admiral continued, but humans understand something most species don't. Victory is never safe. Winning a war is never comfortable. We don't survive by playing it safe, we survive by taking the hardest path and making it work. He pointed to a cluster of smaller nodes around the core. Our fleet will attack these first. Each node we destroy will free parts of the swarm. The Vora will weaken. Confuse. Collapse. Velrun frowned. What about the architects themselves? Reyes' expression tightened. We believe they are still alive. Maybe asleep. Maybe hidden. But they will wake when they realize humans are interfering. Carter added quietly, the sphere sent out a signal before we captured it. The architects now know we are coming. Dallin felt the air grow cold. So they know humans are a threat? Reyes shook his head. They know humans are the only threat. A heavy silence settled on the room. The weight of the truth pressed down on everyone. The Vora Swarm was terrible. But the architects were worse, cold, ancient, brilliant, and merciless. They wanted control of every mind, every world, every life. And now, they wanted to erase humanity first. Because humans were the one thing they could not predict. Or control. Reyes stood tall. We face something old. Something powerful. But we do not back down. We take the fight to them. His voice carried strength, certainty, and fire. We will stop the architects. We will break the swarm. And we will prove that humanity does not bow to anyone. The refugees looked at the humans, tired, wounded, outnumbered, but unbroken, and they realized something important. This was why the architects feared them. This was why the Vora failed to crush them. Humanity did not fight with logic. Humanity fought with spirit. And spirit was something no machine could ever predict. The real war had begun. And humans were ready. The human fleet pushed deeper into architect space, and every hour felt heavier than the last. The stars around them changed color, shifting from normal white to strange purple and green shades. Space itself felt wrong, as if something was twisting it from far away. Inside the cruiser Iron Strike, Captain Dallin watched the navigation screen with growing fear. They were now close to the central system, the heart of the architect network. This was where all commands flowed from. This was where the real enemy waited. Commander Lyra Vance stood at the center of the bridge, her hands resting on the railing. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. We enter the core region in 5 minutes, she said. Everyone, prepare for the hardest fight of your life. The refugees exchanged worried looks. Even after seeing humans fight again and again, the thought of entering the core made their stomachs twist. Why is it called the core? Velrun asked quietly. Because everything the architects built starts there, Vance replied. Every command. Every Vora movement. Every attack plan. And if we destroy it? Dallin asked. Vance's voice softened. The swarm will collapse. The lights dimmed. Alarms hummed. Engines slowed. We are entering the core region, the pilot announced. The forward screens lit up. Everyone gasped. The Architect core system was unlike anything they had ever seen. Instead of planets circling a star, the center was a giant artificial sphere, bigger than any world, bigger than any station, a metal planet glowing with billions of lights. Strange rings wrapped around it, rotating slowly like the gears of a god's machine. Vance whispered, "The Architect core world." The giant sphere pulsed with cold blue energy. From a distance, it looked beautiful. Up close, it felt terrifying. Every instinct told the crew to turn around and run. But humans did not run. And humans were not alone. Behind Iron Strike, dozens of human ships formed battle lines, cruisers, carriers, destroyers, and new prototype ships built only weeks ago. Alien refugee fighters from the Silver Crest joined them. Even damaged Union ships that had followed the humans earlier were ready to help. A full mixed fleet had come for the final strike. Admiral Reyes' voice came through the comm, steady as steel. "All ships, listen. This is our chance. The Architects are old, powerful, and brilliant. But they made one mistake." He paused. "They underestimated us." A ripple of determination moved through every ship. "Primary fleet, attack the core rings," Reyes continued. "Strike team, prepare to enter the planet." Dallin turned to Vance. "Strike team?" "Yes," she said. "A small group will enter the Architect core and shut down the command center manually." Dallin stared. "That is madness." Vance nodded. "Yes. But it's also the only way." Suddenly, the Architect core reacted. The rings around the metal planet began spinning faster. Massive openings appeared on the surface, and thousands of shining shapes burst out like metal birds. Architect drones. They were elegant and deadly, silver bodies, sharp wings, glowing blue eyes. They moved with perfect precision, like living machines following one heartbeat. "Enemy drones incoming," the pilot called. Human cannons opened fire first. Huge beams of energy sliced through the air. Drones exploded, but more filled the gaps instantly. Human fighters launched from carriers, weaving between drone formations. Then the Architects deployed something far worse. Giant mechanical constructs rose from behind the core world. They looked like floating towers with rotating arms, each arm ending in a massive gravity weapon. Gravity waves blasted across space. 2 human frigates were crushed instantly, bent like paper. A third ship spun out of control, alarms screaming. Dallin grabbed the railing. "How do we fight that?" Vance answered without looking away from the screen, "We survive it." The battle exploded in every direction. Human cruisers dodged gravity beams. Drone swarms ripped into fighters. Carriers unleashed missile storms that lit up the dark sky. The entire battlefield shined with fire and chaos. Inside all this madness, Admiral Reyes sent one last order. "Strike team, go." A small formation broke away from the battle, a group of fast, heavily shielded ships heading directly toward the core's surface. Iron Strike led the charge. The core world fired at them with everything it had: lasers, gravity waves, drone storms. But humans pushed through. Inside the surface, a giant hangar door opened like an iron mouth. The strike ships flew inside. The interior of the core was a mechanical maze: towers, moving platforms, flowing rivers of digital light. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. "Where is the command center?" Velrin asked. Carter, the scientist, pointed at the map. "Deep inside. We must reach the central chamber." Security drones attacked from all sides. Human soldiers returned fire, moving fast and working together. Alien allies covered their flanks. The deeper they went, the stranger everything became. The walls were no longer metal, they looked organic and mechanical at the same time, as if the Architects had merged flesh and machine into one. Finally, they reached a massive gate glowing with blue energy. "This is it," Vance said. "The Architect core mind." The gate opened. Inside, a huge chamber extended in all directions. In the center floated a glowing sphere of light, massive, beautiful, terrifying. It pulsed like a star trapped inside a cage. The architect core. It spoke. Not with sound, but through every screen, every device, every radio. Human anomaly detected. Your chaos disrupts harmony. You must be removed. Vance stepped forward. We are not afraid of you. The core pulsed brighter. Fear is predictable. You are not. Then it unleashed a blast of energy. The strike team dove for cover. Shields cracked. Alarms screamed. Carter shouted, "We need to overload the core's energy bridge." How? Velrin yelled. Carter pointed upward. Hit those 3 nodes at once. Humans and aliens split into groups. They fought through drones, climbing metal structures, dodging beams of light. Humans moved with pure determination, no fear, no doubt, only will. One by one, each group reached the target node. Ready. 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 Fire. Vance commanded. 3 massive explosions shook the chamber. The core flickered. Carter yelled, "Now we overload the main heart. Everyone fire everything." The team unleashed their weapons. The core screamed with a machine-like roar that shook the entire structure. Light cracked across its surface. Then, a blinding flash filled the chamber. The architect core collapsed. The Vora Swarm across the galaxy felt the shock instantly. Fleets froze. Creatures stopped mid-flight. The perfect order controlling them shattered. The battle outside shifted instantly. Human ships pushed forward. Alien allies attacked with new strength. The core had fallen. But the war was not over yet. The explosion inside the architect core chamber felt like the end of a star. Light swallowed everything. The floor shook. Metal screamed. For a moment, no one knew if they were alive or dead. Then the light faded, and the world returned in broken pieces. Commander Vance lay on the floor, pushing herself up slowly. Sparks rained from above. Smoke filled the air. The glowing sphere that once held the architect core mind was gone, nothing left but drifting fragments. We did it," Carter whispered, coughing. Velrin stared at the empty space. "The core is destroyed." The words did not feel real. Captain Dallin helped Vance to her feet. "We must leave. Before the whole structure collapses." And it was collapsing. The architect core world shook violently. Walls cracked open. Energy arcs burst like lightning. The giant planet machine was dying, falling apart from the inside out. Vance activated her comm. "Strike team to Iron Strike. We need extraction now." A static-filled voice answered, "Hangar door is unstable. Everything is falling apart." A metal beam crashed nearby, cutting the message short. Vance gritted her teeth. "Move. Run." The team sprinted through the collapsing corridors. Drones fell from the ceiling like broken insects. Platforms gave way beneath them. Fire poured out of vents as systems overloaded. The entire core was tearing itself apart after the command center died. Carter stumbled, almost falling through a cracked floor, but Dallin grabbed him just in time. "Don't slow down," Dallin shouted. The group reached the hangar just as the doorway began to crumble. The Iron Strike hovered inside, engines roaring, shield flickering under falling debris. Vance shouted, "Go! Jump!" Human soldiers leaped first. Aliens followed. The ship's crew pulled them aboard one by one. Velrin barely made it in time, his tail was almost crushed by a collapsing platform. The moment the last person was inside, the hangar fell apart behind them. "Punch it!" Vance yelled. The Iron Strike launched out of the dying core. Explosions chased them through the tunnels. Burning fragments of the planet machine shot past like meteors. Finally, they burst into open space. The sight stole everyone's breath. The architect core world, once perfect, silent, and terrifying, was splitting apart. The rings shattered. Massive cracks opened across the sphere. Rivers of blue energy leaked out like blood. On the outside, the battle changed instantly. The Vora fleets, once organized and deadly, became confused. Swarms scattered. Hive cruisers lost coordination. Drones drifted without purpose. The machine mind that guided them was gone. Admiral Reyes' voice came through the comm, loud and full of fire. All ships. Push forward. Break their lines, now. Human cruisers charged. Fighters weaved between stunned Vora drones. Alien ships, once broken and afraid, now fought with new strength. The galaxy had never seen a battle turn so quickly. The Iron Strike returned to the fleet formation. Cheers echoed through the halls as soldiers realized the truth. The impossible had happened. Humanity had struck the heart of the enemy. And won. But victory was not without cost. Across the battlefield, human and alien wrecks drifted silently. Many brave crews would never return home. Fires burned inside broken ships. Rescue calls overlapped across the comm. A quiet sadness settled over the bridge as they looked at the wreckage. We lost, so many, Dallin whispered. Vance nodded slowly. War always takes more than it gives. But even with heavy loss, something bright burned inside every survivor. Hope. Real hope. The first true hope the galaxy had seen in years. The Architect Core world finally split down the middle, releasing a wave of bright energy that washed across space. When it faded, only debris remained. Reyes' voice came again, softer this time. To all crews, the core has fallen. The control network is broken. The Vora are retreating across every front. The crew looked at each other in disbelief. We stopped them, Carter said quietly. Humans stopped them, Velrin corrected. You did what no other species could. Vance shook her head. Not humans alone. You fought with us. You stood with us. Velrin lowered his eyes. Only because you showed us how. The fleet turned toward safer space. Fires were put out. Wounded were treated. Ships limped into formation. They had survived the darkest part of the war. But as they traveled, something kept bothering Dallin. He approached Vance. The core mind is dead. But what about the architects themselves? Are they all gone? Vance was silent for a moment. Then she answered quietly, we destroyed their main command system. But some architect units may still be out there. Hidden. Sleeping. Watching. Dallin's stomach tightened. Then they may return. Vance nodded. One day. Maybe years from now. Maybe centuries. Then what will humanity do? Velrin asked. Vance looked out at the stars, her eyes reflecting the glowing wreckage drifting through the void. We will be ready, she said. We always learn. We always adapt. And we never kneel. Reyes' voice came through the comm again, firm but warm. To all surviving ships, prepare jump for home. We return to Sol. The refugees watched Earth's fleet begin its journey back. For the first time, the stars felt peaceful. Safe. Alive. But inside every heart, human and alien, something new had taken root. Respect. Not fear. Not confusion. Not doubt. Respect for the species that refused to die. Respect for the species that fought through impossible odds. Respect for the species that changed the course of the galaxy. When the fleet finally jumped home, Captain Dallin closed his eyes for a moment and whispered. Humans saved us all. Vance corrected him gently. No. Humanity didn't save the galaxy. We reminded it that hope still exists. And as the stars stretched into bright lines, carrying them back towards Sol, the galaxy began to heal. Because the legend of humanity, the species that would not break, had only just begun.